Hi, this is Tom. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to talk about the state of the race, the presidential race, and also some tools that you can use to try to figure out what's going on. So the first place that we'll go to will be Real Clear Politics. And hopefully this is responding because there's a lot of traffic. Good. All right, good. So we can see here that this is showing Harris is up by 1.9, and then you can see the polls and the aggregation of the polls. Now, does this give us the answer that we're looking for? Well, unfortunately, it's not quite that simple because if we go to this tab, and hopefully this will respond, great, it worked. Okay. So what we'll see here is this is called a scorecard. So the RCP pollster scorecard. And what this does is it will show the results of the pollsters. And the main one that you want to look at is the 2020 presidential election. So it'll be 2020. That's the one you want to look at, first one. And then the second one you want to look at would be 2016 presidential election. And this is because the mid term elections work completely differently than the presidential ones. So you kind of get like apples and oranges that way, but just concentrate on the presidential ones. And so here we can see that here's the average error of the pollster, and then you can see like the direction of the error. So these top three tend to skew in favor of Republicans by these amounts. So like 2.5 to 3 in that margin. And then these last 15 or so tend to skew in favor of the Democrat by from 3 to 7.5. Okay, in that region. Okay, so you can see that there's a bit of skewing towards uh, the Democrat here. And so you can't just take the the 1.8 that we saw for Harris, but would want to adjust this in some way. And there's different ways of going about that, which I don't think I'll go into. But I mean, I'll let you work out the math and think about it yourself. But I mean, it gives you the information you need to know. It tells you the pollster, it tells you the average error, and it tells you, the probability of erring in a certain direction. Okay, so the next thing that you can look at would be the betting markets. So the most well-known one is Polymarket. So I will go here, and here we can see that there's a slight edge for Trump. Now this is not like a poll, so this isn't like the percent of the. It's not Trump winning 52 to 47, but what this is that 52% of the people that bet on this site think that Trump will win, and 47% of the people that bet on this site think that Harris will win. So this is another bit of information. And also, I wanted to mention that if you do the math on like the first that I showed you, and you apply like the adjustments that you can see, it'll come out to a small advantage for Trump. So maybe 1.5 something like that. And then here we can see this sort of um, this confirms that Trump might be slightly ahead. Okay. Now another thing to look at, and going to be the direction of the country. So this is also on Real Clear Politics. It has a lot of these metrics that you can look into. And I don't know if this will come up just because of the traffic problems. But I can tell you what it is. I'll wait for a few seconds. But If it doesn't come up, I'll tell you it's minus 38 is what this comes up to. So if you, and this will show, there's a lot of data here. It's pretty interesting. So there's, uh, I don't know, there's like maybe 15, 20 pollsters that will have this data, and the average came out to minus 38. So that means that if you take the people that think the country's going in the right direction and subtract from it the people that think it's going in the wrong direction, the result would be minus 38. And the most, the closest election that I found to that was 1992. So that was the election against Clinton and Bush, where the incumbent was, okay, good, it came up, was, okay, it's actually changed slightly. So you can see it's minus 36.5. So this is a negative for the incumbent party when this happens. So this is also confirming a slight lead for Trump. And if this were the only thing that we would look at, we would say, well, it would be a pretty sizable lead for Trump if you compare it to 1992. But the electorate is constantly shifting, and we have a much more kind of baked in electorate than what the country had in 1992. So I would say like this is, it is indicative, but it's not like as strongly indicative of as it was in 1992, at least in terms of the size of the margin. We can, even despite this, we can expect a close election. Okay, that's the point. Okay, the next thing that I want to look at would be, there's a metric also in real politics called generic ballot. So if you look at that, it will show about the Democrat by 1 point. Okay. And I'm not going to try to shift around because I'm really happy that I'm getting the response that I'm getting here. So I'll just say that, that's what that is right now. It's about Democrat plus 1, or slightly more than 1 for the generic ballot. And another place that you can try to find that information would be Gallup Party ID. So I'm going to look at that. And you can see here just from the headlines, it says Independent Party ID tied for high. And it says Democratic ID at new low. Okay, this is as of January of this year. And I'm going to click here, and hopefully this will respond. And good, came up good. All right, so we'll look at this. This is the party affiliation. And so if we go to January, we'll see this actually showed a 2-point Democrat lead. It actually got better for Republicans from that. It went in July, it was actually a 2-point advantage, 30 to 28. And I don't think that's ever happened. So this always favors Democrats, basically. And if we go back a ways here, okay, I don't think I'm going to risk moving around just because of because of the latency issue. So I'll just tell you, if you go back to like 2008, so that's a high water mark for Democrats, then you'll see that it got as high as 15% advantage for the Democrat. And if you go to 2016, then you would see that the Democrat had a small advantage, but maybe around like 4 points, something like that. Now this is slightly out of date. This was July. So when it updates, like to August, what you'll see most likely is that this will be about Democrat plus 1. It'll be in line with the congressional ballot. So if you consider like the history of this party ID, then you'll see that this is favorable for Republicans. So this is another indication of a lead for Trump. Okay, so a fifth thing that we can look at would be what are the issues that people that are most important. And there's a good site from Statista, and I'm not sure it will pull up. So I'll give this a chance to see if it does or not. Oh, good, it came up. All right, good. So you can see here inflation, immigration, healthcare, jobs in the economy, and then abortion's number 5. So the first, so the first two are favorable for Trump. The third one would be for Harris. The fourth one for Trump, and the fifth one for Harris. The sixth one for Trump, and then you can see, kind of from there. But the top issues, you can see that there's an edge for Trump on the issues that people were thinking are most important. Here's another one that's more recent. This is 3 weeks ago. And actually, this is pretty recent, it's July 30th, but this is 3 weeks ago. This is most voters in new polls say economy, immigration, most important issues in 2024. So these are issues where Trump has an advantage over Harris by double digits, like 12 to 18 points, somewhere in that range. Okay, so we've looked at a number of different items, and I'll mention another thing that you can look at would be like hard data. So hard data would be things like registration data in the different states, the how many people voted in the primaries, and also a really interesting thing to look at is where they're going, where they're campaigning. And I'm going to mention as a place for information would be Twitter. So on Twitter, I'm going to point to, let's see, I'm going to look at a couple places here. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. It says, between today and Wednesday, Harris and Walz will be in New Hampshire, Minnesota, and Virginia. So these are states on the periphery. These aren't states that are in the battleground states. So these are states that this is not a good sign for the Harris campaign if they're spending time in New Hampshire, Minnesota, and Virginia. Now, a caveat about this is you can't just look at this and say, okay, this is bad for Harris. It's not that simple, because there could be other reasons why they're going there, because there's other races that are happening. There's congressional races, there's Senate races. So that's something to look at. And a good way of going about it would be you can just look at the thread. And this is a good thing about Twitter or X, is you'll get people from both sides will be commenting. And so this person is a conservative. All right. So he's making the point, well, you'll get people, on the left that will respond, and they'll say, oh, there's, races in Minnesota and Virginia. So, other races like Senate or congressional. So that's why she's going there. But that's a way that you can get information. This is a really good thing to follow. Would be like where the campaigns are buying ads, what states they're buying ads in. So if you see that the Harris campaign, for example, is buying ads in New Hampshire, Minnesota, and Virginia, that's not a good sign. Similarly, if the Trump campaign were buying ads in, say, uh, North Carolina or Florida, Texas, places like that, then that would be a bad sign for the Trump campaign. Okay, now the last thing I want to mention here is if you look at, go to Twitter, what I would suggest would be uh, Nate Silver is someone that you could follow, and he's going to give you a perspective from the left. So he's a well known uh, person in this field that gives lots of commentary about what's happening in the election. And then I'll mention on the other side, someone from the right to look at is People's Pundit. So I'll put this on here. People's Pundit, right here. This one here, People's Pundit. So that's someone from the right that you can follow. So what I would strongly suggest is if you want to get good information, try to figure out what's happening, is that you don't limit yourself to sources just on one side of the political aisle. You want to look at sources from the left and from the right. And Twitter is particularly a good place for this because you can get these threads and you'll see people that are arguing on both sides of the question. Um, and if you go to Nate Silver's site, um, you see the last that I saw, he had Trump at 55% chance of winning. And since he's anyway, that's another indication that Trump has a slight lead. So we've looked at a number of different metrics, and all of them are pointing to a slight lead for Trump. So that's what I would say the current state of the election is. And what I would suggest again would be go to Twitter, and if you want to get another point of view, somebody arguing that the election is actually somewhat favoring Harris, somebody that would argue against the metrics that I showed and have an explanation as to why they're not meaningful, or why Harris is actually doing better than these things might show. Twitter's a good place for you to look around to try to find counter arguments for that. So what I've done here is I've expressed an opinion based on the data that I've been looking at. And